more to say about the TPP.
I think he would say things like, well, why has it been negotiated for 5 years without the public being aware of it? Does the public know that 600 corporations have a seat at the table while the public has none? That we are lucky to have any leaked text? Do people know that trade agreements are a whole lot more than just about taxes and tariffs? They used to be about that, so they were fairly, probably many decades ago, benign. That is no longer true. Jobs are getting offshored now. Food safety is at peril. Internet freedoms is at peril. Cost of medicines and access to them is at peril. Natural resources could be exported, particularly natural LNG. That is a problem, banking and other things. We have paid Brazil millions and millions of dollars under WTO provisions because we subsidize our cotton farmers. And so that hasn't even gone away yet. It's going to come again come up again in 2016 or 2018. These international tribunals undermine our existing laws and threaten our sovereignty. Public Citizen, Citizens Trade, Food and Water Watch, Common Dreams, the Sierra Club, and many, many others oppose provisions in the TPP because they undermine the public interest. Peter DeFazio has voted against all trade agreements according to his website. I think you should talk to him. I think the very least that you could do is to vote against the fast track thing, smart track, whatever you call it. You said trade done right. Well, Peter DeFazio would say trade agreements are not trade done right. The public has a right to know what's being negotiated in their name. 5 years of secret negotiation and then rush through Congress in 90 days with no public debate, no amendments is not trade done right. That is trade hurting everyone in the U.S.
Let's see if we can cover a few of the areas, because you made a number of points that are important that I haven't kind of touched on earlier. First, your point about how trade is no longer about just tariffs and taxes and things like that. I agree with completely, and that's why I said from the very beginning when I think one of the first questions was about trade, I said, look, trade law's sort of been in a time warp. It really, and one of the areas that I've fought for in the discussions is internet policy, because after the American consumer wins in the fight against PIPA and SOPA, I can tell you can be darn sure we're not going to give it away in a trade negotiation. We're not going to give this back to the communications lobbies in some kind of trade negotiation. I can just assure you of that. That is not going to happen on my watch. So trade is definitely about more than tariffs and taxes. And that's why I mentioned currency, which I think is a completely different issue. As far as I can tell, nobody talked about currency in the 90s, or if they did, it was not a feature show. So it's definitely correct what you said there. Second, with respect to the process and the secrecy, if you go online on YouTube, you will see me both with Mr. Froman's predecessor, Ron Kirk and others, pounding away at the need to get more information to the American people. It's all on YouTube. We can give you the sites, and maybe you've seen it all already. I had, when I was chairman of the Trade Subcommittee, my lead advisor had top security clearance, and he couldn't get access to a lot of what was going on. So how is everybody here going to do it? So let me say, particularly, I don't know how many more questions are going to be, but I'm going to be here to answer as many as I can. My pledge on this issue is I understand full well how important this is to Oregon, and how important, somebody said, well, somebody didn't mention the trade meeting in some particular meeting. I can tell you, there is enormous concern about this issue all over Oregon. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it. The days are over when the public is going to be in the dark about trade policy. And I'm just going to make sure that people have the information they need in order to weigh in and voice their judgment. Here's the one issue where I suspect you and I are going to have a difference of opinion. And I say that because I think you made a fine presentation, and certainly you can tell from the comments I made, I agree with a number of specific points you made. I don't see how you can come up with a process where at some point you don't have a vote up or down. In other words, when people say there should be an open debate with respect to trade policy, absolutely. But to me, and I recognize that some people will see that differently, that doesn't mean that 535 members of Congress are all going to offer 2 or 3 amendments each to a trade bill, so that we have well over 1,000 amendments. The reason I have that view, recognizing other people may differ, is that if that's the way we approach it, nobody's ever going to talk to us about a trade, debate, because nobody will know what they're actually negotiating, because we'll have hundreds, if not thousands, of amendments. Now, I know other people see that differently, and I respect that. I do think at some point you have to have a vote, up or down, or else you're not going to be able to move forward on a lot of the issues where I think you and I, agree. So this will be part of a discussion, but what is non-negotiable to me is we're not going to have yesteryear where the public is just completely in the dark about what's going on. You're going to have a chance to find out about it, and this is not the only discussion we're going to have on this. We're going to have plenty of it.
Thank you.
Where will that occur?
Well, we'll have them at town meetings, we'll have them at other kinds of opportunities, but there's going to be no shortage of them. I'm guilty of a lot of things, but one of the things I feel strongly about is making sure everybody has a chance to be heard.
Way before it's actually passed?
Well, sure, let's say way before.
Senator.